What are boxers notorious for when it comes to their features? I'm gonna just say right here and now, it is the strongest feature that points out to me is the nose and the mouth. Like how strong and short and a little bit wrinkly, almost like a bulldog. So that feature is very, very, very important to focus on. Now, when it comes to coloring, you can see here I'm actually working on more of the red tones, the reds and the orange, and then I'll go in and I'll kind of make some of those tones a little bit more subtle by incorporating the opposite color, which is more of the blues and the purples, those kind of cool tones to contrast between the two. That way it's not so vibrant, because there really isn't just one single simple color that goes into drawing any sort of animal. So there's a huge variety. As you can see in this ear, I actually implemented some purple tones in there as well as some blue tones, and that really helps to counteract some of that warm vibrantness that's happening in this portrait, especially in the highlighted areas. So you really want to focus on using some of those cooler tones in the highlighted areas. And then another key feature are making sure you're drawing those little eyebrows that are kind of coming up and out. And I like to use a dark sepia kind of color pencil to be able to create some of that brownness, the dark brown, before I apply the black, because the black sometimes it looks a little too flat. So if you can apply a little bit of different colors for the first few layers and then start to use the black afterwards, that is going to really benefit you in the long run. And then focusing on that fountain effect for the eyebrows and the forehead. So you can see there is a lot of different colors and a lot of different textures that are actually happening. You wouldn't think there's a lot of texture when it comes to just flat fur, but there really is a lot that's happening in terms of the highlights and the lowlights. So getting that variety of different colors is going to help make the portrait look a little bit more 3D like it's popping out of the paper. And with the nose, it's a really big feature, especially for this portrait here, because this boxer is facing forward. So I added some blues, I added some purples in there, and then the same thing for that mouth. I'm still applying like the same kind of colors before I start to actually apply darker, more saturated colors. And then you can use a little bit of some mineral spirit oil to blend all that together. You really want to invest in some good tools along with color pencils. That way your results are going to be way more satisfying in the end, because you really want to have a good set of the right brand color pencils as well as the right kind of paper and the right tools such as electric erasers and something like that mineral spirit oil. Now, if you're interested in the materials that I'm using, you can check out the link below. I have a whole ebook that has direct links to all the materials that I use and suggest using yourself, especially for budget friendly. Now, I do have a free ebook for a budget friendly option, but moving on here, this tongue definitely was very not saturated at all. It's very light, very pastel looking. I do go back in and kind of darken it up a little bit, but overall the tongues tend to not have just pink in them. You do have a little bit of purple, some blues. You definitely want to focus on the shaded areas. That way it can create a sense of realistic, lifelike 3D look. And then I don't always apply colors to the pet portraits, but this one, my client wanted to incorporate the collar in there because it was a key feature for this doggy. So I did apply this, so you can actually see now how I apply different materials. So this one here was a pink collar and had a little bit of some like darker pink shading, as well as some texture in that the silver part of the collar there. And then as it goes up the neck, you can see it gets a little bit lighter. Now, I know there's not a lot of saturation happening for the collar and the tongue there, but in the reference image, that is how it looks. Now, you can change it up if you have other reference images to be able to get a more accurate color depiction for the whole portrait overall. But for the most part, this is kind of how the tongue and the collar really looked. And for the rest of the body, there's not a whole lot to it. It really is a similar method, but you don't have to add nearly as much detail as you did in the actual face. Just really want to focus on the direction of the fur. That's super, super important, because the direction of the fur will make or break your portrait significantly. Now focus on the highlights as well. So you can see I'm using lighter colors to kind of incorporate more of that texture as well as the highlighted parts about it. And then I'm applying a little bit of some purples just to kind of create a nice little cooler contrast in there. So really it is a matter of just applying a variety of color pencils as well as building up those layers, making sure you're leaving room for the highlighted areas as well, because it does get to be a little bit harder to apply those highlights. I hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.